The golden child, and my wedding day revelation was always the disappointing daughter. My sister, on the other hand, was the golden child. The truth about her finally came out at my wedding. I'm 42 and have a successful career as a research professor at a top institution, yet I've always been seen as the family disappointment. After decades of silence, it's time to tell my story. Since childhood, my younger sister Ava, 38, has been the favorite. Their blatant favoritism finally reached a breaking point, shattering our entire family dynamic. The sting of comparison started early. I remember being 8, excitedly reading my science books in my room, when I heard my mother downstairs, "Why can't you be more outgoing like your sister?" At 6, Ava had already captivated our parents by performing for guests in the living room. With her dramatic acts, I spent hours taking apart and reassembling old clocks, fascinated by how things worked, while Ava was soaking up all the attention. It was an early pattern. For my 10th birthday, I asked for a chemistry set, but received used novels instead because books are more practical. 2 months later, Ava wanted dance lessons, and suddenly, our parents found money for private instruction, complete with new ballet shoes and custom tutus. That same year, when I wanted to join the school science club, Mom complained about the cost and told me to focus on making friends. In those early years, my only family ally was Grandma Martha. Her house just a few blocks away became my sanctuary. I'd spend weekends with her while my parents took Ava to acting and dance classes. Before she retired, Grandma Martha taught high school science and nurtured my curiosity in a way my parents never did. "Your mind is a gift," she'd say, teaching me about constellations from her backyard or helping me with simple kitchen experiments. High school and college, unacknowledged success, the difference in how we were treated became glaring in our teens. When my renewable energy project won the state science fair at 14, my parents skipped the ceremony, claiming they had to take Ava to a crucial audition. That same year, after Ava landed a small role in a local play, our parents threw her a lavish party, inviting the whole extended family and even hiring a photographer. High school was a blur of academic success that went unnoticed at home. I maintained a 4.0 GPA, was president of the science club, and editor of the school newspaper. Meanwhile, Ava was starring in school plays and dating the football captain. Her social and theater life dominated every dinner conversation. If my academic achievements were acknowledged at all, it was just a passing nod by the time college acceptance letters arrived. I had a full scholarship to study biochemistry at a top university. When Ava decided she wanted to go to an expensive private performing arts school, our parents sold our vacation cabin to pay for her tuition. My mother's response, far from pride, was, "At least we won't have to worry about your tuition." Ava shows such promise. We can't let her talent go to waste. Finding my own way and the betrayal during my undergraduate years, I immersed myself in studies, finding comfort in the lab where my intelligence and dedication were finally recognized. My professors supported my academic pursuits, encouraged my research, and became the mentors I'd always longed for. After graduating with honors, I received full funding for a prestigious PhD program. My parents, who attended my graduation, left early because Ava had a commercial audition callback. Through my 20s and 30s, I steadily built my career. I secured significant research grants, published extensively, and at 40, achieved tenure, rare feat in academia. Yet, family gatherings always revolved around Ava's latest acting gig or her marriage to Richard, a successful real estate developer. My molecular biology breakthroughs were met with a dismissive, "Oh, Emily's still doing her science things." When I met David, a researcher in my department, I finally felt like I'd found happiness. He seemed to share my passion for scientific advancement and truly understood me. Our partnership developed naturally from shared interests, and we co-authored multiple papers. I believed that when he proposed last year, I'd finally have a typical milestone my family would acknowledge and celebrate. However, everything fell apart catastrophically last week. I stayed late at the lab to finalize data for our latest paper. When I went to David's office to deliver the results, I found him and Ava sharing a passionate hug on his desk. My fiancé and my married sister were having an affair. The aftermath, and a new perspective even, worse than the heartbreaking betrayal, was what happened next. When I told my parents, their immediate concern was for Ava. My mother pleaded, "Please, don't tell Richard. Think about your sister's marriage. He has a prenup. She'll lose everything if this gets out." My father chimed in, "These things happen, Emily. You need to be the bigger person here." I've been the bigger person for 40 years. I stayed silent when they threw lavish parties for Ava, but missed my birthdays. I said nothing when they flew across the country for Ava's community theater performances, but missed my PhD defense. I swallowed my hurt when they told me I needed to be financially independent, but helped Ava buy her first home. Amidst all this turmoil, something unexpected happened. 3 weeks ago, I met Michael at a university fundraising event. He's a 45-year-old architect who designs research facilities and was there to present ideas for our new science building. Like David, who often engaged in intellectual competition. With me, Michael listens with genuine interest when I talk about my work. He asks insightful questions and discusses his own creative approach to designing environments that foster scientific advancement. When I called Grandma Martha last week to tell her about Michael, she heard the shift in my voice. "You sound lighter?" "Dear, tell me about this architect of yours," she remarked. We spent 2 hours discussing everything, how Michael's eyes light up when he talks about the intersection of art and science in his designs, how he asked for my input on his early sketches for the new research wing, and how when we met for coffee, he remembered every detail about my work. The contrast with my family's reaction to David versus Michael is stark. Whenever I mention David at family gatherings, they'd immediately steer the conversation to Ava's latest accomplishments. However, when I brought up Michael, my parents actually paused their usual compliments about Ava's acting career to listen. My aunt, during a recent family dinner, naturally pivoted back to Ava in minutes. "An architect, huh? Did you know Ava's yoga class friend is married to a famous architect?" "Tell Emily about him, Ava. I recognize the irony of my current situation. I've been a successful professional for decades, receiving recognition my parents barely notice. I've published groundbreaking research that could lead to new genetic treatments, but my mother is mainly concerned about whether I'm getting enough light in the lab. Ava, on the other hand, has had small parts in community theater and commercials. Yet she receives Oscar-level attention for every audition. Last month, I was awarded the prestigious Morrison Grant for my work on cellular regeneration, a huge accomplishment in my field, as only 3 researchers are selected nationwide each year. When I called my mother to tell her the news, she said, "That's nice, dear, but did you hear about Ava's latest role? She has 3 whole lines in a national ad." Later that week, they celebrated Ava landing the commercial with a family dinner. My grant wasn't even mentioned. In fact, the day I saw David and Ava together, I had gone to his office to show him the grant acceptance letter. We had collaborated on some of the initial research, so I assumed he'd be thrilled. Instead, I found him with my sister, clutching the doorframe in disbelief, my engagement ring glinting on my finger, and her expensive dress hiked up around her waist. The breaking point and new beginnings, the events that followed, blurred together. David's rambling justifications about feeling neglected because I spent too much time in the lab. Ava's casual, "Oh, Emily," as she adjusted her clothing, and my parents' anxious calls, all aimed at preserving Ava's marriage and reputation. No one ever asked about my emotional state. As usual, I went to my lab the next day. Science has always been my refuge, the one field where hard work and intelligence are valued more than flash, and results matter more than showmanship. I spent a few hours immersed in real problems with measurable answers as my graduate students discussed their latest research. However, something had changed within me. For the first time in my life, I felt outraged rather than just hurt by my family's actions. I'm truly furious. It was a powerful, freeing anger, instead of the silent resentment I'd harbored for years. Looking at the grant letter on my desk, the papers I had published, and the students eagerly awaiting my direction, I realized I no longer needed their approval. I hadn't needed it for years. I had dinner with Michael that night. We'd been hanging out informally since the fundraiser, but I'd been reluctant to share too much about my family. His consistent presence and genuine interest in my opinions made me feel comfortable telling him everything. His architect's eyes were analytical and focused as I recounted 42 years of systematic dismissal and favoritism. He listened without interrupting. Michael was silent for a while after I finished speaking. Then he said something that gave me a whole new perspective in architecture. We sometimes encounter structures that appear flawless on the outside, but have serious structural problems that cosmetic remodeling can't fix. In these situations, the most considerate thing we can do is acknowledge that the structure is no longer safe and build a new one. He's right. I've spent my entire life trying to fix a fundamentally flawed family structure. I've tried being the ideal daughter, the smart researcher, the understanding sister. I've minimized my accomplishments to avoid overshadowing Ava and downplayed them to spare my parents the cognitive dissonance of having to acknowledge them while maintaining their narrative of Ava as the special one. Grandma Martha, 92, and still as sharp as ever, always sees right through our family dynamics. Last night I had dinner with her. Your parents have spent so much time making Ava the star of their show that they've forgotten their other stories. Worth telling, she said, swirling her tea with a poise that belied her age. But you, my dear, have been writing your own story all along. Perhaps it's time to stop letting them edit it, she continued, taking my hand. I am writing this now because I have made up my mind. Michael and I have been talking about getting married, not engaged yet, but headed that way. When the time comes, I will not have a large family wedding, nor will I invite my parents or Ava, who will inevitably try to make it about her. Instead, I will have a small celebration with the people who have truly supported me. Grandma Martha, my Aunt Linda, my co-workers, who appreciate my work, and Michael's family, who have shown me more genuine interest in 3 weeks than my own parents have in 42 years. Yesterday, I let Ava's attempt to call me go to voicemail. She left a message saying I'm overreacting to the situation with David and that she wanted to explain. She ended by reminding me that she is my only sister and that family should forgive each other, which I deleted without answering. For the first time in my life, I'm putting my happiness ahead of my family's meticulously crafted story. Choosing to be surrounded by people who appreciate me for who I am, not who they wish me to be, and celebrating my accomplishments without downplaying them to stroke someone else's pride. But here's the thing. I'm a scientist, and I deal in observable facts. And the facts are they broke up this family long ago, piece by piece, every time they chose to devalue one daughter to elevate the other. I know there will be fallout when my parents realize I'm serious about cutting contact. They'll probably tell everyone I'm being dramatic, that I'm jealous of Ava's success, and that I'm destroying the family. I have my research, my students, my grants, and now possibly a partner who sees me clearly and values what he sees. So here I am, at 42, finally ready to do the most important experiment of my life, seeing who I can be without the weight of their expectations and disappointments. Perhaps that's more than enough. Perhaps that's everything. Update 1. 3 months. Later, 3 months have passed since my last post, and a lot has happened. Let's start with the good news. Michael and I are officially engaged. He proposed last weekend while we were reviewing the final blueprints for the new research center. He'd hidden the ring in a blueprint two-bit was the perfect combination of thoughtful, subtle, and totally us. Let me give you a little background so you can see how far I've come. After the David and Ava disaster, I threw myself into the new research facility project. And working with Michael became my sanctuary, while my family called me non-stop, pleading with me to forgive Ava and keep the peace. Michael and I spent long hours discussing how to create the ideal laboratory spaces. The interaction itself was a huge contrast to my experience with David, who made his proposal at a department meeting, turning it into a public spectacle. With David, everything was a competition. Who had more publications, whose research was more innovative. Michael, however, made it personal and meaningful. My Aunt Linda, who was genuinely delighted for us, delivered the news to my parents. Within hours, my phone was overflowing with messages. Why didn't you tell us you were seeing someone serious? Was Mom's initial reaction. not congratulations. Ava might have compared you to her friend's architect spouse. Then the guilt tripping began. We should have been the first to know we're your parents. It didn't matter that they hadn't inquired about my life once in the 3 months since the David incident. They were too preoccupied with helping Ava cope with the anxiety of possibly being discovered having another affair. Mom called in tears, claiming I was denying Ava her position as maid of honor and family tradition. When I reminded her that Ava wasn't even invited, she fell silent for a full minute before launching into a speech about forgiveness and family ties. That's when the real drama began. Richard has been distant ever since David, my ex-fiancé, started working as a personal trainer at Richard's company's fitness center. Yes, you read that correctly. David quit academia to pursue personal training. It seems he and Ava have been seeing each other at the gym. Richard isn't aware of this yet, but people are talking. During this trying time, Ava has been calling me every day, leaving messages about how she needs her big sister. In contrast, my research has thrived amidst all this turmoil. Last week, we secured further funding for our cellular regeneration study, and the grant committee specifically mentioned the creative lab design Michael and I created together as a contributing factor. Grandma Martha was thrilled when I called her with the news. "That's my girl," she remarked proudly. Michael's mother, a retired judge who truly understands the complexities of the situation, said something that really resonated with me. Family isn't about sharing DNA. It's about sharing respect. Michael's family has been incredible throughout this entire ordeal. His sister, a literature professor, is now one of my best friends. Michael and I had our first real date at the Botanical Gardens, where he'd asked me to discuss the greenhouse specifications for the new research facility. We ended up talking for hours about everything from architectural history to photosynthesis. This is why the wedding planning has been surprisingly calm, mainly because we're keeping it small and meaningful. Grandma Martha, who has been more of a parent to me than my own parents ever were, is the only member of my immediate family who will be there. Michael and I are meeting with her tomorrow to show her our wedding plans, and to be honest, it seems perfect. I've started going to therapy to process all of this. She's helping me understand that it's okay to set boundaries, even with family. Michael joins me for some sessions, and his insights as an architect often provide interesting perspectives. Emotional boundaries are like load-bearing walls, he said in our most recent session. They're not about keeping people out. They're about maintaining structural integrity. For now, I'm focusing on my research, my future spouse, and finally putting myself first. I'll provide another update once we have a clear wedding date. For the first time in my life, I feel appreciated and seen for who I am, not because I'm someone's sister or daughter. Update 2. 2 months before the wedding, 2 more months have passed since my last update. I wish I could say things have improved with my family. The wedding is in 3 weeks, and instead of being a happy period of preparation, my parents and Ava have caused yet another family crisis. We meticulously organized everything. Small ceremony in the Botanical Gardens followed by a private reception. I made it clear to my parents that Ava was not invited, and the guest list included Grandma Martha, a few close relatives who have always supported me, my coworkers, and Michael's family. My Aunt Linda called to warn me after overhearing Ava boasting about the surprise she was planning for my wedding. It turned out she had already purchased a dress that, in her own words, will show everyone what a real star looks like. I learned yesterday that my parents had not only informed Ava about the wedding details, but had actively encouraged her to attend. When I confronted them, they pretended they were helping me. "We couldn't let you make the mistake of excluding your only sister," Mom said, adding she's got a beautiful speech about sisterly forgiveness. It will make the wedding so much more meaningful. This was the most frustrating part, I responded. But she's going through such a difficult time with Richard. He's been so cold to her lately, and she needs her family's support. I had to reiterate that someone who had an affair with my ex-fiancé is not allowed to speak about forgiveness. At my wedding, with his exact words, "The only dramatic performance happening at our wedding will be our vows." Michael, who has been incredibly supportive throughout this whole ordeal, quickly called our wedding venue to set up extra security after I informed him of Ava's planned intrusion. The irony that Ava's marriage to Richard is disintegrating at the same time I'm starting a new life with Michael is not lost on me. Richard has finally started asking about her frequent gym visits with David, and my Aunt Linda claims there have been some tense arguments at their home. Nevertheless, in my parents' eyes, this makes Ava the victim who needs assistance, rather than the mastermind behind her own demise. In addition to the gym, my colleague noticed David and Ava eating lunch together at a cafe near the university, looking very intimate. I brought this up to my mother, hoping she'd finally notice the pattern, but she dismissed it as Ava being a supportive friend to someone going through a career change. My parents tried a new strategy this week. Dad, who has never shown up at my lab without warning in my entire academic career, tried to persuade me that keeping Ava out would create a rift that can never be healed. The rift was created when you consistently chose her over me, I said, looking at him standing there, this man who had never taken an interest in my work. It was widened when you dismissed her betrayal of my trust. Don't worry about Ava. Grandma Martha, bless her, assured me. I'll be stationed at the entrance. She wouldn't dare try to get past me. Grandma Martha, 92 and still sharp as attack, and who doesn't tolerate foolishness, offered to run interference on the wedding day. My research lab has become my sanctuary during all of this chaos. The clarity of data analysis and the precision of scientific work are a welcome contrast to the emotional manipulation I'm dealing with at home. Michael's brother, who works in private security, has also arranged for a few colleagues to be present, disguised as guests. I've hired additional security for the wedding, though it pains me that I have to protect my own wedding from my sister's intrusion. The venue has been given photos of Ava and strict instructions not to allow her entry. 3 weeks before the wedding, I should be thrilled about marrying the amazing man who supports my career, knows my boundaries, and loves me for who I am. But instead, I'm planning how to prevent my own sister from ruining my wedding day. My graduate students have noticed my increased presence in the lab, but they've been incredibly supportive. I will provide another update following the wedding. Regardless of Ava's presence, I am marrying Michael. I will no longer allow my family's drama to overshadow my happiness. Update 3. The wedding day revelation. Yesterday was the wedding. Well, I wish I could say everything went smoothly. My family did manage to pull off one last dramatic moment. But this time, something unexpected happened. The truth was revealed, and the fallout was both painful and freeing. Ava, as usual, wore a white dress that looked more appropriate for a red carpet event than a morning garden wedding. And despite all our precautions, our parents showed up at the botanical gardens, my mother sobbing uncontrollably about how cruel it was to exclude them. While my father tried to reason with the security team, I was in the bridal suite with Grandma Martha and Michael's sister, and as I saw the chaos at the door through the window, something inside me finally broke. It all came to a head when I stepped out to the entrance, still in my wedding dress. After years of being the nice daughter, staying silent as they belittled me, and watching them justify Ava's actions, I was done. Emily, how could you do this to me? I'm your sister. I came here to support you, to show you how much I love you, Ava said, launching into her performance. She stopped talking when she saw Richard's car pull into the parking lot. Yes, it was Richard, her husband, who had reportedly followed her there. A scene from a movie played out as Richard confronted Ava about her relationship with David, despite her best efforts to deny it. David called her phone, which was on speaker, and everyone heard him ask if she would still be coming over later. My mother then turned to me and exclaimed, "Look what you've done!" If you had just invited your sister properly, none of this would have happened. Rather than confronting Ava about her actions, that was the last straw. I answered in a surprisingly composed voice, "No, Mom, these are her decisions, not mine. She chose to have an affair with my fiancé while she was married, to attend my wedding uninvited and in white, and to keep seeing David behind Richard's back. 3 years ago, when I found Ava and my then fiancé, David, together in his office, and told our parents, they never once asked how I was feeling. They were only concerned with protecting Ava's marriage because Richard has a prenuptial agreement." Richard's expression changed from hurt to angry. "A prenup. Is that why you've been pretending everything's fine?" he asked Ava, who, through mascara and tears, revealed everything. The affair with David had been going on before he and I were engaged, and she had pursued him out of boredom, and because she couldn't stand that for once. I had something she didn't. Richard turned and left without another word, and Ava ran after him, yelling his name. My parents, still apparently more worried about Ava's failing marriage than their other daughter's wedding day, followed. Following their departure, an extraordinary event occurred. The remaining guests, my co-workers, Michael's family, Grandma, Martha, and the relatives who had consistently witnessed Ava's deceptions, surrounded us in a protective circle. Michael's mother, a retired judge, then asked, "Now, shall we have a wedding?" Michael's vows moved me to tears. He pledged to love me and to always see me, to value my mind as much as my heart, and to create a life based on mutual respect and understanding. The ceremony was lovely, with the gardens in full bloom and the morning sun casting a natural spotlight through the trees. My Aunt Linda told me today that Richard is divorcing Ava, and the prenuptial agreement means she will receive nothing. My parents are inconsolable, trying to figure out how to support her. But for the first time in my life, I don't feel compelled to join in the drama. On our 2-week honeymoon in New Zealand, Michael and I will be visiting some of the most cutting-edge research facilities in the world. Between hiking excursions and wine tastings, the ideal fusion of science and leisure. Much like us, some of the most significant experiments are the ones where everything goes wrong, but you end up discovering something revolutionary, Grandma Martha observed when she called to see how I was doing this morning. As always, she is right. Amidst all that craziness, I found my own strength. I'm not sure what the future holds for my family, but I'm focusing on my new life with Michael, my research, and the family we've chosen, one based on genuine love and respect for one another, rather than duty and rivalry. I have a feeling my parents will eventually try to get in touch with me, most likely to ask me to help Ava get back on her feet. It's time to begin my honeymoon with my amazing spouse, who loves me because of my commitment to science, not to spite. This will be my last update. Cheers to fresh starts, unambiguous boundaries, and at last, the freedom to be who I truly am. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.